This conference will now be recorded.
Are you like me? Are you one of those people who puts a piece of paper over their camera?
No,
Okay.
it's, I've had issues with my webcam, and I ended up buying a second one just so in case there were problems with the first one. Let's see if that works. There we go. Okay, so we have a quorum. I apologize. I don't know why I thought it was 7 o'clock.
But it says 7 on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay because I had trouble getting the meeting going anyway, opening it. Opening up.
I had trouble getting you to go to meeting. Okay, so let's call to order. We got some time to sort of catch up on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They just talked a little bit about residential composting as an administrative session.
Oh, cool. Anything I should know about?
We're still waiting for a permit date.
Yeah.
It was submitted probably when? End of summer, you say, Abby?
Late summer, early fall was prior to my arrival, but my understanding it's been with Deep for some months now.
So it's just got.
You remember that it was with Deep for over a year because when we went to see Carl, it was supposed to be at Deep.
Yeah, but it took time to, I guess a few months to get organized and send in the application and everything, so.
Okay. Well, it seems like it's a big state priority too, so I can't imagine that. Well, I did invite Carrie Allen to join because.
Oh, there she is. Okay, awesome.
Hey guys.
Hi, Carrie.
Hey, Carrie.
Because we do have the, the new task force that's forming the coastal resiliency.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we need to have a discussion about that.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully all of you clicked on that link because while it's not like terribly informative, it does give you some background into it. Sherry, I guess over to you in terms of referrals from other agencies. We can't hear you. You're muted.
You're muted, Sherry. I don't believe there are any though.
There's no new referrals.
Okay. Just as a follow-up on a prior referral, I did send that letter that we discussed at the last meeting to the planning and zoning meeting.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
In terms of the waterside property, potentially coming back, from if it got referred back from appeals court.
Yep, that'll go to the commission as correspondence on Monday's meeting, so they'll see that. Actually, that material has already gone out to them, so they've got a copy of it now.
Cool.
And then in terms of other older referrals, your recommendation on open space acquisition fund requirements on waterside was, as you know, it was approved, and the money actually today, the owner came in and provided the check for that. So that is in the open space acquisition fund, and that begins sort of the process of building a body of resources to have a conversation about acquisition. So,
yay.
All right. Well, I think we all should, not look surprised. It's sort of like when you score a touchdown, you don't want to be you don't want to overdo the celebration. You expect to be there.
And how much was it again?
is it around 23,000? I believe is the number 22 and change. Is that correct, Sherry? I don't remember the exact.
Approximately, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Right.
I have the. Hold on. I think I can check on that for you. It was $21,830.
All right.
Okay, so now how do we make sure that that stays in the account for open space?
So we talked to Sue, the finance director, today, and so it's in its own separate line. It's only for the purposes of open space acquisition. So that the line was created at my understanding is that this body had insight and recommendation into crafting that line through the proper channels,
Yep.
and so now that is where it sits.
Okay, so we did have a situation a few years back where
Let's not bring that up, Catherine, because I've got to tell you, Carl is a stickler for this stuff. We
What do
won't get if we can't get anything by Carl, nobody else can.
Well, I mean, what a couple of years ago, somebody had withdrawn $400 and something for an appraisal on a Chittenden property that was supposed to be for open space, but it wasn't us.
No,
And they didn't notify us. So we have to, Sherry's got to constantly keep her eyes on our account because every time we turn around, somebody's dipping into it. And they'll call it for open space or conservation, but it isn't us and it isn't. And it turned out that that was just so that the owner of the property could get a free appraisal. He had no intention of donating or selling the property. So
all right, good news.
$400 wasted.
We have both Sherry and we have Abby on our side now. So I feel like we're in good shape. But also, I got to tell you, Sue Cunningham and Carl run a very tight ship. So I've got all the faith and confidence in those two.
Okay.
So referrals from
That
other
being said,
agencies.
what safeguards are in place?
Yeah, I mean,
There should be a limited number of people who have access to those funds, right?
I think there's an opportunity here to, I think through the information and the PowerPoint piece and this land acquisition policy that Nick started to form out, I think there's an opportunity here to say, because what you're doing is you're recommending a policy for the town to review and adopt. And this is something that I think this group has insight into. I think, other boards and commissions may have, input into making decisions about when this happens, when acquisition happens. Certainly council needs to be involved. But it sort of, I think one of the things to lay out in the policy is with this fund in place, how do decisions get made about how the money is spent so that there's a procedural path that every single potential property acquisition has to follow.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Thank you, Abby. I think we will. So at some point, that PowerPoint that I circulated to everybody, we should go in front of the town council. And I should probably put in a slide about this and make sure that gets recommended for, best practice.
okay, that sounds good. We should.
All right.
How much money is in that account now? Do we know?
Well, it was about 15 and change prior to this. So now
Okay.
so we're at about 38 right now.
Okay, that sounds good.
Cool.
We keep missing that 15,000 for some reason. I just wanted to make sure it was still there.
It is still there. I think. Is it still there? I don't
It's
know.
still there. It's still
It's disappeared at one time or another. It's disappeared. So,
Because it's just about enough in there right now if we were to pursue open space and have the money to apply for a grant. That would be just about enough.
Yep.
yeah.
Probably one more property that we have to deal with. So application reviews, Sherry, anything that I don't think I saw anything come across my transom.
No, there were no applications came in.
Okay, great. So moving on. Abby?
Yep. So the bulk of my piece is really the Coastal Resiliency Task Force, which I know is later in the agenda, so I can talk about it either time. The only other things to start looking for, the Harbor Management Commission, as you may know, is working on their update to the Harbor Management Plan right now. They're engaged with Race Coastal Engineers to to do this process. They are working through the schedule of a public survey and a potential public meeting in March to get some feedback, talk about how people interact with the harbor and with the spaces there. And so it may be an opportunity for, for you to be engaged and, at least respond to the survey when it comes out. It'll be on the town website, social media, those kinds of places. The date of the meeting right now, I believe, is tentatively set for March 8th. I'll know more about that after tomorrow's meeting, I believe, is canceled, and they have a meeting next week as a special meeting to kind of finalize things and figure out timing and the public outreach. But just a heads up that that's coming. And then the other big thing is the resiliency task force. So we can talk about that now or later.
I'm thinking, if everybody's okay with it, in the interest for Carrie, because she was interested in it, and anybody else, why don't we move the coastal resiliency up?
Do we need to make a motion to move that up on the agenda?
I don't know.
Technically, yes.
All right, well, let's make a motion. Somebody make a motion?
Okay, so what item are we on that we want to move it to?
Okay.
We tabling it till next meeting? Is that what we're doing?
No, we're moving.
No, we want to just talk about it now.
Yeah.
Oh, now. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. I moved.
Motion.
Okay,
Okay, Kathy.
yeah.
So MJ made the motion, Kathy seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Carries unanimously.
Okay.
All right, so Abby, back to you.
Yep. So we were notified by Carl recently that the town council has put forth a charge to form a coastal resiliency task force. And
Abby, let me just interrupt briefly. We have Larry has shown up, so can you have the record reflect that Larry is here? All right, super. Back to you, Abby.
So this task force is sort of a main charge, and then I think it has some implementation charges relative to the development of a coastal resiliency plan. There is a grant that was awarded from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation's 2022 Long Island Found Futures program, and it covers resiliency planning for Clinton, Westbrook, Saybrook, and the borough of Fenwick. And so we are partnering. The planners of those communities are meeting essentially monthly, now, where I've just gotten word that some of the contract documents are back from the foundation to get the project started. The administrative pieces of this are really being managed through Westbrook with Peter Gillespie, the planner there. He was the one who was instrumental in writing and securing the grant and kind of going through the actual application process for these communities. But it was applied on a regional basis because, again, the resiliency pieces are a regional issue.
Yeah.
So what will come out of this plan, the goal is to have sort of a very good assessment of what some of the risks and opportunities are for the town to address some of the impacts of climate change, both from a perspective of natural resources, the built infrastructure impacts to public and private property, and any municipal sort of resource pieces that might need to have money spent toward them in the next piece. And the idea here is this is kind of a foundational grant to get a plan in place with some decent cost estimates for a few projects to make us ready for the next round of application money that's coming out through the federal government. There's a lot of money being released toward climate initiatives, and we want to make sure that we're eligible and ready. This program will help us get there. So the plan, or the charge of this committee, is to really make sure that Clinton is well represented in the plan, that what is happening through this joint effort does kind of meet the needs of our town. And then the idea here being that there would be a representative from a number of different groups in town to form this commission to make sure it's well rounded. So that's the reason. So conservation and planning and zoning are sort of the land use folks who are there. Economic development has some folks, harbor management does. So the council is drawing from lots of different places. So part of it is to make sure that the recommendations and action steps in the plan function for Clinton and function regionally. And then the other piece is to, talk about implementation and make sure that we have a group of folks who carries beyond the crafting of the plan and has a charge to move things along in the future. So that's really the purpose here. This may result in things ranging from capital expenditures, grant applications, policy and regulatory changes, open space acquisition priorities, all those kinds of things I think will get touched on as part of this plan. And so what we're looking for now is a nomination. I believe the council is going to entertain nominations from each of the groups that were requested at their meeting on the 15th. And so they're hoping to have a name from this group to represent by then. So that's really the question is, who will it be?
Well, Mark didn't show up today.
What's that? Who?
Yeah, so let's name him.
Yeah.
Can I pose a question?
Hey, Abby, what's required in this? Is this like monthly meetings? What's the?
It has not been laid out yet. I would imagine that once things get going and we're really into the crafting of the plan, monthly meetings are realistic. I think at this stage right now, you may be looking every couple of months. As it's time to really review materials, I would imagine monthly meetings are probably expected. I don't have a date or time for those yet. I think the task force will set those. There may also be opportunities to join the planners. So we'll have some meetings that are, sort of a staff level meeting that we'll be doing work in between this, and then we'll be coming back to our respective groups. So in Clinton would be the task force to report back, get more information, and bring it back to the group that's working directly with the grant folks.
I'll do it.
I'm sorry,
I'll do
what?
it.
You'll do it?
I'll do it. Sounds
Anybody
like
else?
Volunteering. Nice. Thank you, Kathy.
it sounds interesting.
Yeah, Paul.
Let me ask you a question.
Paul Gebauer has been wanting to have a coastal resiliency group here in Clinton.
Who has?
Paul Gebauer.
Oh, yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It totally makes sense that it's a regional one too. Yeah, Larry, you had a comment.
I was just going to ask Abby. Abby, you're going to be involved with this at the planners level?
Yes.
Okay. And to the extent you're involved at the planners level, you're involved as a Clinton planner?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you'll have an overall look at our interests and
Absolutely. And part of my role will be to be the bridge between the larger group in Clinton working on these issues that are, you'll be raising priorities, sort of saying, here are the things that we are most concerned about. Here are the things that we want to make sure the consultant hits on. If there's questions about the product that comes back or things that you think need to change that where Clinton has mentioned, that's the kind of stuff that real sort of does this plan work for our community? You're sort of this group will be the sounding board for that. And then my job is to make sure that information gets carried back and that there's good communication and open flow of information in between.
okay, so
The task force will also help with outreach, getting people engaged, making sure that we have good representation from people. So it's not just, the same folks who typically comment on everything. We're really trying to get out to folks across the community who are impacted and make sure that the plan has something in there to address concerns from lots of different perspectives.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll be involved in not only giving input to make sure that, we're part of the plan is going to function for Clinton, and that we're going to be prepared to get ready to jump into any action we need to take to get at federal funding to implement the Clinton end of things.
That's the plan. Yep.
Okay, and so you'll be working with them to develop that, and at the same time, what do you do as far as, do you take input from our groups back to the planning circle?
Yes. So and what we're looking at right now the planners met once last month. We're meeting again tomorrow, and one of the things that we're discussing is sort of how this process will work to make sure that there's adequate opportunity for every community to kind of have its voice, and to make sure that things are sort of come together in a way that is reasonable across the communities, and that it still has a regional feel, because we may choose in the future to apply for regional grants or things that span between town borders, and we want to make sure we don't miss those opportunities too. So I'll be making sure that information is flowing back and forth. The other piece of it, though, is this task force in town. The idea, I believe, is that it will carry on beyond just this planning project to make sure that there's recommendations for the upcoming plan of conservation and development, or things happening with the harbor management plan, or have a resilience lens that they look at. So it's also a group that can have input into things that we're doing in town without the regional component as well. So there's sort of a two-part piece to this. But a big part of it is to make sure that when the planning group and the folks who are doing the bulk of the administrative work relative to the grant, when we get together and do our work, we have a sounding board, and we make sure that there's a good cross section of the community that is making sure that we're doing what works.
Yep. And by the way,
I have
does
to
every
say,
town,
Catherine, I'm interested in this role as well. Hate to say.
Would you like to take turns?
Phenomenal too, Larry, but
well, my only other question was with regard to Abby. Abby, does every town in this this group have a planner from
Yes.
every town that's involved?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So and do they have more than just a planner involved? In other words, I don't want our town to be outmanned or out represented so that they get the bigger share of the pie. In other words, we want to make
yeah.
sure we have, okay, all right.
I don't think that's the intent. I think the grant was written really specifically to be equitable across the communities.
Okay, great.
And that, I think one of the reasons it was awarded is because it's a regional project. And so that everybody comes away. What will happen is, each community will get probably a higher level of, preliminary look and opinion of probable cost to advance particular projects that the task force says, okay, these are our top priorities. We want these ones advanced, and we want prioritized recommendations to advance these other ideas later. So it's really going to be about, sort of the trade-offs. There's only $150,000. There's only so much you can get for that money. And so that, a lot of it is going to be about setting priorities for where we might want to invest next. And that's where the task force, I think, is going to have the most say. But yes, so what we're looking at right now is having the staff representatives, one staff person from each town. My understanding is that there's somebody, either town managers or first select people, that may be also involved, and then each town is getting to decide on its own how it will manage input into the process. And so Clinton's piece is to say, let's have this group in place so that we have a sounding board that is formed specifically to look at this issue holistically, so that we get good information going back.
I see. Okay.
Imagine if we didn't have a planner.
I can't.
We've been needing to do these things. This is important. Anyway.
So I think the issue before us is just select one, either anybody else. Does anybody else want to throw their hat in the ring before we get started?
Well, is this a thing where we could split it amongst people, or are they going to want continuity and just one member?
So I think there's the idea being that there's the body, I believe, what did it say? There's 7 regular members and 2 alternates. And my understanding is that, they want each of the groups that's been identified to, and they've got, let's see, town council, planning and zoning, conservation, harbor management, sustainability, additional appointees, a marina owner, and others with ties to the coastal community, and somebody representing a beach association. So trying to get sort of a broad cross section. And then staff are sort of ex officio members. The council will make the ultimate determination on who and from what bodies, sort of get put in, but it looks like, the sum total of regular members is 7. So I think what they're hoping for is, this is the consensus of the commission of our nominee to be appointed. We're hoping that this is the person who takes it. And then that doesn't mean that other folks can't participate. it's still a task force. It's still public meetings. There are, the intent would be to be, this representative from each of these groups is also reporting back to their respective boards and commissions. So there's that tie as well. So you get the planning tie and you get the back and forth between the commissions. So there's opportunities along the way for everybody to have input. It's not like one person goes and that's the only voice.
So
It's just one
Kathy,
official
can you
voice.
get nominated from sustainability, and then we can have both of us on it?
Oh, I'm not on sustainability
Oh,
anymore.
you're not.
But
You're not. Oh, I thought
absolutely.
you were still.
You know what, Nick? I think if you want to do it, you're probably in tune with it. Also, I mean, it's up to you. I will do it if you don't want to. It's perfectly fine with me, whatever you want to do.
Well, that's very nice. So look, I think we're both would be phenomenal members.
Yeah,
Speaking for myself.
it's very interesting. It doesn't matter which one of us is on it because I got a feeling we're both going to work on this stuff. All of us are going to work on it anyway, because everything that goes there is going to come back. We have to report on it. We got to discuss it. We all got to work on it. So it doesn't matter.
To be honest, this was one of the primary issues that I joined the Conservation Commission for, was coastal
Yeah.
resiliency. And
then you go right ahead then.
well, can I get a motion to nominate me as the task force member?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Great.
I just didn't think I felt that sometimes you mentioned that you're a bit overwhelmed. And so I don't want to dump everything on top of you, Nick. You know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, no, I hear you. And this is, but this is probably this and sustainability, which I guess, I mean, that's another big tenet in the back of my head. I care about deeply.
Well, it's all together anyway, so it's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Kathy. Okay, so that's resolved. Abby, anything else we should know, or can we move on?
Nope, I'll report that back to Carl for the council, and then we'll go from there.
Excellent,
Good.
excellent. Carrie, I don't know if that means you can drop, or if you want to hear the rest of this, up to you.
And Abby,
let's go through our workshops pretty quickly and see if we can walk through it.
We can just skim over things, yeah.
So pollinator pathway, there's a couple things that are going on. I am chairing not chairing, I do the MC of the pollinator pathway, and I have Sherry Smith and Sue Kelly are the subject matter experts, and there's another one February 21st at the First Church at 6:15. So there's going to be a pollinator pathway meeting, and then
open to who? Oh, is it who is the
I think
meeting?
it's open to anybody.
Okay.
So it's at First Church. It has something to do. Honestly, I'm not a very religious person, but it's Shrove Tuesday, I think.
So February 21st.
There's like a pancake dinner that goes along with this.
Oh.
And what's the what day of the week is that? February 21st?
I think it's a Tuesday, MJ.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's going to be the same old, well, not same old. There's going to be a few new wrinkles in it, but virtually the same presentation that we've given the prior two times.
Oh, okay. All right.
We're also.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm trying to line up another presentation for the pollinator pathway in the library, like May 10th or 11th. That's a good time because that's when pollinator stuff gets going.
Yes. Preparing, the gardens.
Exactly. And so I haven't set it up yet, but I'm going to try and work with the library and get that going again. Hopefully get some participation from you guys on that as well, because I think that's the big one all year. We
Yeah.
just sort of run that one. So, Sherry, do we need to call that like a special meeting so these guys can attend?
Yes, you should.
As soon as
Because
it's
if you have more
scheduled, yeah.
people come, if you have 4 of your members show up, it becomes a meeting.
Okay, so I have to, before we do that, I have to work with the library. Unfortunately, the person that normally works with me is out on a sick leave kind of thing. So as soon as she
Just
gets,
FYI, National Pollinator Week is June 19th to the 25th.
all right.
I just found that out
Oh.
yesterday.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the only
National
problem with that is it's
Pollinator
too
Week.
late. It's too late to really impact this year. I think if we do
Right.
it in May, we can
Right.
actually have an impact. That's all I have on Pollinator Project. Dark Skies Project, I don't know if any of you guys have an update on what you're working on, or?
I'm just working on, I am shortening, I'm editing right now.
Okay. So why don't we, are you working with Mark on that one?
No. Is
She-
somebody want to work on it?
Kathy has shared some information with me, so if you want some help on writing something up.
Okay, well, why don't we schedule next month?
Okay.
We'll do a Dark Skies sort of deeper dive.
All right. That sounds
Does that
good.
make sense? And that way, because we got some progress made, thanks Larry and thanks everybody else. Mark, I think, was the initial person that brought this up. But there's more to do.
Nick,
Yeah,
if I
basically we
can-
want to write something up so that, I mean, they were interested, right? P&Z was interested in
Yep.
in this. They were definitely not opposed. So,
Okay,
so
great.
I'd be happy to work with you, Kathy, on. But
I mean,
Larry did write a letter to them. Larry already
I
did
think
write
I
a letter.
wrote a letter already to him. I submitted a letter, Nick, to you, and then I think we sent it in.
Yeah.
And that
Right.
worked, Larry.
Yeah.
So what planning and zoning did is all new commercial properties need to use, but now we've got residential properties and we've got government, local government properties as well.
And that's in our regs now? That new,
There are
Yeah.
standards
Regs.
for glare, light reduction, that kind of
Correct.
stuff
Okay.
in the regulations now. Yeah.
So,
fantastic.
I mean, thanks Larry on that one. That was good. It got us what we needed, and
Thanks,
and they-
Larry.
And credit to planning and zoning. I give them a lot of credit for taking it up and putting those regs in the book.
So I wonder if Kathy and I even need to write something up.
Yes,
In
because
other words, did they put it in commercial? Now we want it in the residential?
Residential. Okay,
Why wouldn't they just use morph the same language into the residential
that's
section?
true.
Yeah, I think, and
Well,
I apologize
I
because I don't have the section of regulation in front of me, but I think there's there's a question of new construction of single family homes versus anything that you impose. I mean, single family versus multifamily is a sort of typical break and the degree of regulation. If a new subdivision is coming in, the subdivision regulations are another place to look. If that is, I would probably focus there. And then there may be an opportunity for there's regulatory pieces for town buildings, but there's also policy pieces that could get put into place, both for the town buildings and Board of Ed buildings, and those might be another place to look.
Abby, if I may ask, when they decided to do it for the commercial buildings, was there a reason that they didn't do it townwide for all other type of development, whether it be residential, governmental, or whatever?
I'll have to go back and pull that section of the regulations. I just haven't memorized them yet, and I wasn't here when the adoption was when it was done. So let me find out what their findings were relative to adoption.
Yeah, I was going to suggest maybe what we should do is simply, since they're going to do the detail work as far as putting it into their regs, Why don't we simply send a second letter requesting, similar to what they did for commercial, we'd like to do them, have it done for, have them implement it for the other areas of the regs impacting upon governmental buildings or residential.
Yeah, no, I think that what I'd love to do though, as part of that letter, Larry, if you guys, MJ and Catherine, are doing some research on it, let's include some facts. Let's tighten it up and let's make it a compelling letter. But absolutely, Larry, I think that's the way to go.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just trying to put some together as an informative, as for like an initiative kind of thing. I mean, what we're talking about with planning and zoning is that they're going to have this in the regulations for any new developments, right? Or any new businesses that are built, things like that. Is that right? I mean,
So,
they're not
and
asking
what
anybody to change anything, right? They're just saying,
Correct. It's new buildings have to meet this code.
that's right. So
But what I want to do is go back and make sure, because I've got some amendment notes from 2014 that I think are probably old clerical notes in here, because I believe that the section in 4.8 is the section in the zoning regulations that pertains to what the work that you did. Lighting plan shall show all exterior lighting fixtures and their photometric characteristics and certification, that the impacts on adjacent properties will be eliminated or minimized to the greatest extent possible. Does that sound like familiar language?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's in there. It's referenced as a 2014 amendment, but it's not. So we'll take that piece out. Okay. I just want to make sure that it wasn't an older piece and then there was new information that should have been reflected that I didn't know about. So okay, perfect.
Okay. So we'll do a deep dive on the Dark Skies project next month. And then from that, we'll write something to the planning and zoning that requests them, to broaden out their mandate.
Yep.
Cool.
By the way, I'll work with you on the pollinator pathway if you need a second worker. Yeah. Okay.
All right, cool. All hands gratefully received. Residential food composting. I know it's been a hot topic. Abby, you want to give us a quick summation of where we are at this point?
Just that the application has been submitted to the state and the town is waiting for a response. I've heard the same thing from both Carl and from Todd, and it's sort of when it comes in, then they can get started on actual policies and procedures of how things are going to go, but they've got to hear from the state first.
Okay. The one thing I've got as a to-do on my end that I'm going to do this month is I want to contact Schweitzer trash pickup, because if we don't have them involved, it'll be a very small amount of compost being picked out. We really need to, if they're picking up all the trash around the town, and they kind of have a monopoly.
Do they have a recycling? Don't they have a recycling bin along with the trash bin already? They don't do that.
They're going to need a third bin, believe it or not. That's for food waste.
Okay, but then if we do that, okay.
And
I mean,
honestly,
that's not going to help. That's fine for people who have Schweitzer. I go to the landfill. Well, most people I know go to the landfill, so it's not going to. So yeah, but a lot of people don't. So you're trying to do both of them, right? You want to kind of combine. Okay.
So the people going to the landfill are absolutely going to be taken care of with this new policy. The people that use Schweitzer, unless they do go to the landfill in addition to Schweitzer, won't get taken care of. So I don't know what the right answer is with Schweitzer. I just want to have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. I mean, now that we've actually applied to DEEP and all that's underway, now's a good time to be talking to Schweitzer and seeing if they, because for them, if they can divert some of the trash and it doesn't cost them money to do food waste recycling, or it costs them less money, they should be very tempted to with this.
There's only one problem with that I can think maybe, and that is that when we were talking to Carl about using the transfer station for the landfill, it was one of those things where it was supposed to be like, well, let's see how many people use it. And, if it turns out, we'll keep doing it and then we'll go from there and see if we can, expand from it. But if you take everybody and, that usually sends their trash off to Schweitzer and say, we'll give them your recycling too, the town might see it as, well, nobody's really using it, or not that many people are really using it. It's not worth it for us to spend the money.
I'm not sure. So here's what I'm proposing with Schweitzer. That they collect the food waste recycling from all their houses, and then that goes to the town waste recycling facility.
I don't think they're going to let them do that. Do they let them do that? Does Schweitzer, is that where, because Schweitzer might have a contract where they got to, you'll know, you'll talk to them about it and you'll find out.
Well, yeah, I would think that anything like that would need to go to bid. You can't just say Schweitzer is interested in doing it. You would have to put something like that out to bid if it was going to be an actual municipal program.
We have to start that conversation, because right now it's sort of like, the good news is we're making progress, but there's the ability to go much, much bigger if we do it right.
Sure.
And, we could put it out to bid, but Schweitzer's going to win because they control trash collection in this town.
Yeah, I'm not.
That's exactly what Carl did not want to do.
I know.
I guess that's the question that I have is there a budget for town sort of administrative support for that side? Again, I wasn't involved in any of those conversations, but I do think it's probably important to sort of say, is there a likelihood that the town advertises things this way, or is it meant to be a ground up and then see how it's going and approach? So I wasn't here, don't know, but
all right, I tell you what I'll do, Abby. I think this is all good feedback. Why don't I reach out to Carl, tell him that that's kind of in my mind. I think there will be that groundswell up, and people like myself will bust the compost to the dump, but there's a lot of people that won't, and we got to start figuring out how to get those guys, because again, the impetus behind this is that trash collection is going to the cost to the town is going to go dramatically up, and so if we can figure out a way to divert 28%, which is the amount that food waste recycling can divert, that saves the town money and could potentially save all of us money, either in taxes or, whatever we pay for, carting fees. So let me start with Carl and then I'll go to Schweitzer.
Yeah, Carl first, definitely. Come on in. Go ahead. All right. They sat outside the door quiet this whole time. I let them in and they start barking. Okay. Anyway.
All right. So let's move on and so I'll do that. Japanese knotweed, I don't think we have anything to talk about today. That's something in April or May we start tackling again. But fortunately it's dormant right now. Land acquisition procedures, I think we sent something out to, I finally did send out the PowerPoint to everybody and the model. I hope everybody got it.
Yes, sir.
So, if anybody has comments, etc., get them back to me. There's no pride of authorship here. I just want to have I wanted to tap into Larry and Kathy's, experience.
Do you want to have a work session to finalize everything?
Yeah.
Go over your PowerPoints and just finalize it? Maybe we could do that, a separate session.
Yeah, that would have to be a separate meeting and would have to go maybe we'd meet at the library or something like that.
I'd be fine with that. How about you, Kath?
Okay,
Yes.
so, and that's only 3 of us. Would anybody else like to participate?
I mean, I'm happy to support and give you guys notes on some stuff, and if it's during business hours and whatever, I can absolutely our Thursday early evening or something, and can so definitely find a time to jump in. There's a couple things I think to chat about, especially some of the under creative ways to acquire new land and some of the sort of variants or acquisition. There's because there actually are enabled things that we could be considering. What TOTOs or partners, creative partnerships with the land trust and all that kind of stuff. I think there's great opportunities, but I just want to make sure, like, I was inland wetland application exemption. I was like, ooh, can't do that. But there's other things we can do. So,
Okay.
By the way, as a segue into that, I had the discussion at the last board meeting for the land trust, and I mentioned to them the land on Killington Turnpike, that large piece we were talking about, and they are interested. This is the one that's approximately what, about 200,000?
Yeah, 190, I think.
Yeah, 190. And what's the acreage on that?
Off the top of my head, I'm going to say like 20.
Mark was the one who visited the site, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's several members of the land trust that also visited the site a couple of years back, and they did say it's very nice property, and it might be something that the land trust would want to look deeper into. So if we want to go to the next level, maybe we could have a meeting on that, because they want me to report back on that. And so picking up on Abby's comment about a working relationship between the two groups, put our energies together to get stuff done.
Definitely.
We do have that interest.
I don't think we can acquire any land without the help of the Clinton Land
Right.
Trust.
Agreed. Agreed.
That's right.
Okay, so it's $180,000 and it's 23.57 acres.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, we have had we do get continued interest in the land use office on the property. We've had a couple of different inquiries about a couple of single family homes, people being able to put animal boarding kind of stuff. So there's interest there. It's probably not one of the we're not getting consistent streams of folks coming through the door, but there's been a few inquiries in the last few weeks.
Okay, so we should probably so Larry, how do you want to proceed on this?
Why don't I suggest this? If we're going to get together on the land acquisition procedure, let's fine tune that, and then let's have a discussion at the end of that about where do we go as far as trying to get a coordinated effort between the land trust and our group. I guess the first thing we have to do is we have to decide, do we really want to go for this land? And if so, then we get together, the two of us, and the two groups, and we could do it as subcommittees of each group, because you get more done if you have a small group to start with, and we can proceed from there. I mean, when we did the Weiss Loveday properties, what we did was, the land trust committed to a certain amount, and then the water company, we touched base with the water company, they came in with a certain amount, and then there were other groups that would come in. And then also we go back to the town and we say to the town, hey, we'd like a contribution from the town. And again, this goes back to what we were talking about. Should the town start giving us buttonholing some money for open space acquisition, or do they want to do it on a piecemeal basis as we come up with a joint project?
Right.
Now,
I think you missed that in the beginning of the meeting, Larry, maybe.
Yep.
We had another 23,000 deposited in our account.
For that.
For open space.
For
open space acquisition, yep.
I see, okay.
Yeah, fee in lieu of for subdivision.
And so, here's another thing we could do. And the thing is, there's no reason why we can't go back to the town and challenge them and say, look, we're going to take the money you gave the 23. We'd like to.
They didn't give it to us. It was. Remember when we requested it for the easement, or the,
Yep.
As part of the subdivision, the fee in lieu of open space. Yep.
so we got 23,000 donated from that, or, donated probably.
That was a little over 21,000.
About
Yeah.
21.
A condition of subdivision approval is yeah.
Okay, so
Oh, yeah,
that's
so we don't have
actually,
anything yet.
well, let me pose this to the whole membership as well as the planner. So that goes into our coffers, the 23. If we don't use that by the end of the year, it still remains in our coffers for open space, I would assume.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not an operating expense. It's not part of the annual budget. It is a line item in the town fund
And
that
so
is
here's the
designated
other
for open
question.
space acquisition.
Can that fund be invaded for anything other than the purchase of open space? And the reason I say
We've
that,
already been through that too, Larry.
okay, and what's the bottom line there?
The bottom line is no, but there's probably a need to establish a policy and procedure for how that money is accessed, so that it's not sort of a piecemeal. Every time a property comes up, it's sort of like, ooh, property, let's grab it. It's here, kind of going through your process of this fits in because of these reasons, and we can demonstrate the value of this.
Well, and exactly, but again, what I'm saying is what happened in past administrations, they were looking at different things that they have to have money for, and they kind of put it into, buttonholed it into, well, this has to do with land acquisition, having this survey done, or having this A2 survey, or having a study done. And so slow but sure that our funds previously had been depleted and drafted down, and it wasn't specifically for land purchase. We got to make sure that it doesn't slowly get taken for other purposes that may be considered open space, so they do that and then they take our funds.
Right. So what we talked about was that one of us, if not me, maybe you, we go present the PowerPoint to the town council and say best practices. This money is sequestered out to the side and only available once the Conservation Commission votes for this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it could be not simply for open space land purchase, but for open space projects, which, like, in other words, if we do have to go in and have an A2 survey, and we do have to have two appraisals to see what the fair market value is to go after state funding, those are the type of things we use it on.
Yeah. And also I'm thinking we should have a site walk there.
Yes. Absolutely.
Before we even do anything, we should all see the property.
Why don't we do a joint site walk with the land trust?
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Perfect.
Yeah, they did that on our last one. That'd be great. Yeah. They sent a representative. Yeah. So should we make a motion for that?
Yeah, let's make a motion for
a special meeting, site walk.
Special meeting, site walk, and coordinate with the Clinton Land Trust, and Larry can do the coordination.
Okay, and I'll make the motion.
Okay, so, but we need to decide on a date, correct?
And then probably coordinate with the selling agent to get permission to access the property.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Absolutely.
Okay. So
what is the address again?
It's actually 0.
There's not like an address.
When there's no building on a piece of property, an address is not assigned. It's directly north of, I believe, 247 Killingworth Turnpike. It's in between 247 and 277, so that's the range it would be if there were a building.
Okay. I remember Mark saying that it was not recommended to go from Killingworth Turnpike, but to go from some higher, like, I guess there's access from a street higher up.
Well, why don't we do the following? Why don't we have Larry? I think Larry has to work with the land trust.
Right. So we can
then have to communicate with the real estate coordinate.
And the access I believe that he was talking about was actually through CLNP Eversource property. So there's land trust land obviously back there that could be a staging ground at the toward the end of Cream Pot, but to actually the adjacent property to this is owned by CLNP, so you'd be going through their
Okay.
property to get on.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that would
But
be,
the
that'd be
real estate
another
agent-
thing that we have to do.
Yeah.
Is
the
there a
real
If you
real
wanna
estate
go that
estate
way.
will tell
agent
us where to
involved
meet.
with this then?
What?
There's a real estate agent that's involved with this listing?
Yes.
I don't have a contact information, but I
Yeah.
think we've seen it up on Zillow.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm in it right
Yeah, and
now.
they'll probably have to be there with us. Well, no, actually, they
well,
don't.
no, but that's good. Well, if there's an agent involved, we'll
Yeah.
have the agent coordinate, giving us access to the property and how. And then what we can do is, we can have arrange for a joint, walkthrough with the agent, or the agent's permission that we do it on that date.
Right. So I see that it's presented by Kyle Hinding, Hinding, Caldwell Banker Realty. And his phone number is 860-767-2636.
Okay. Mark
Okay, I'll take care
has
of
been
that.
talking to them. Nick, Mark Giacona has been talking with the real estate agent.
Okay.
Maybe Mark and Larry could.
Name and say
Yeah,
that.
Mark and Larry should coordinate, and we have to give Sherry notice because this will have to be a special meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I at this point,
All
we
right.
have to wait until our next meeting, right? To schedule a,
Yeah, and then I'll have the land trust meeting. They're gonna meet next week. And I can,
Okay.
well, actually, they're the fourth Tuesday of every month. So they'll meet, less than 2 weeks from now. So I can bring that up, confirm their willingness to do it. And then what we'll have to do is, I'll talk with, Mark, and we'll talk with the real estate agent and see if we can, coordinate some type of, what would be a good, walkthrough date. But before I even do that, between us now, what would we want to do on a weekend? Or, I mean, we can't do it on a weekday night because it's obviously, you can't do that now.
dark. Yeah,
So,
that'd be fine with me. That'd be
Yes,
fine with me.
weekend would be fine, or alternatively Tuesday or Friday at lunch.
I see.
Friday what?
At lunch?
Tuesday or Friday at lunch.
I don't know if this is something you can do in 1 hour lunch.
I
You know what
don't
I'm
think so.
saying?
No, it's gonna take a couple hours at least, I'm sure.
Yeah, so let's do a weekend.
Yeah,
All right.
Of course.
Let me see what I can work out, and so I can give a report back at the next meeting. Now, by the way, having said that, going back to our land acquisition procedures, do we want to talk any further about it then or not? That'll just be a separate thing. We can talk about it at the end of that meeting, whenever that's set up. Are you going to be setting that up, Nick?
I'll set that up.
Okay, all right.
And MJ, I know you want to go, but if we actually have you there, then we have to do it as a special meeting because that'll be 4 members. So I'm going to ask that we just cut you out of that meeting. It's just
Whatever's
Larry,
easier, whatever makes it easier.
and we'll work through the PowerPoint.
Sure.
We'll get it done, and then we'll present it at the next meeting.
Okay, and we could do that on a weekday evening at the library. Does that sound good,
Yeah,
Nick?
absolutely. We could do that.
how many of us can meet without it being a
3.
meeting?
3.
3 of us?
3.
Okay. Okay,
God forbid we have a cocktail party, Kathy.
I know. So I can't bring a
Alright.
guest with me or nothing, right?
All right. You know, I'm going to get slaughtered with how long this meeting's going. So.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's cruise. All right, so that's good.
Unfortunately, I screwed up and there it is. I'm trying to do too many things at once. So we've done land acquisition, amendment bylaws.
Okay, I read them. I don't know if anybody else did, but I did. Anyway, I have one thing that I'd like to change. Everything looked really good on it, but there's a couple of, oh, I have to go back to it. Anyway, it's really super easy. There's a pronoun issue in there. There's a
Okay,
pronoun issue in 2 of the paragraphs where it talks about if the member or if the chairman or whatever, then it says he. It should say they
okay,
or the person. I
okay.
don't know. We could use he.
No, I think they is more appropriate, and given the current environment, that's gonna,
It has nothing to do with that. It's just if I were writing it, I don't get into all of those issues. It just sounded funny to say he in
yeah,
this.
I, whether or not we get into it, I think it's the right,
It's because it makes more sense, especially since I'm reading it and I'm thinking, well, how many times have I been the chair? I'm not a he. So let's refer to it as a person.
yeah, okay.
Okay, just because the old way of writing it was always you used he. I understand that, but yeah.
I have no problems with the things other than that. Does anybody else have any issues, or can we amend the bylaws as presented with the exception of turning he into they?
I think they look good.
Yeah, I responded. Yeah, they look fine. They look great. Thank you for,
So can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt the bylaws as amended.
With one exception?
Right, with one exception, the replacement of the pronoun he with the pronoun they.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Bert.
Bert seconded. All in favor?
I
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we got that.
So you should have the minutes reflect that they passed the motion.
All right.
where it's appropriate, Lar. Okay. Anyway.
Don't go getting woke on us, Larry. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
What a weird country we live in right now.
I know.
Operating budget, I don't think we haven't, I think they're just starting the budgets now for 23, 24, is that correct?
Yep. So toward the end of this month, there's the town council sessions for each of the budgets, and that'll get scheduled. If you don't have the date yet, I think the 20th. I want to say the 23rd, but I can confirm it for you.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So I think we can pass by budget, and I think we can pass by sustainable CT certification, right, Kathy?
Somebody calling me? Sorry about that. I had to get something. What's that?
There's no, we skipped over educational opportunities, and there is one, but there's nothing going on with sustainable CTE certification, correct?
I have no idea. I haven't been on the sustainability committee for the past year.
I was at their last meeting. They are going to attempt for a fall certification, and they're starting the conversation with their recognition of the need to do the equity toolkit piece of this. Is sort of a threshold issue. You've got to get some equity work done as a community before anything else could even be considered. So I've gone through their application from before. I've tallied up some points, looked at places where we might be able to get some more points. But the fundamentals is they've got to get that piece of it done. And so that, I believe Eric and Tanya are working fairly closely on that right now. And yeah, we'll let that, I'll wait for a report back from them on that front.
So Sherry, there is some member educational opportunities. I can't go to the CAWS. I don't know if anybody else can make that. Cause.
Which one is that? The cause? Isn't that the one that?
CAWS.
Is that the annual meeting coming up?
Yeah, it's their annual meeting, and it's during like a Thursday all day.
Oh, no, forget it.
Which is off the table for me.
I know. I wish they would. They used to have them on the weekends, right, Sherry?
No, that was
You know,
Cacumet. That was on the weekends.
Pause, before COVID,
Oh, okay.
pause was always during the week. You're thinking of
Because
Cacumet.
it's Association of Wetland Scientists, so I'm gonna guess that they all get paid for the day to go to this thing. You know, right?
All right.
You
Is there
know,
any other-
which they
I'll put it
should.
back. So it
you
sounds
know.
like, is there anybody that would like to go to that?
I can't, so
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's move on from that. Sherry, is there
that
any
sounds
other
good.
of the member education stuff that came in this month?
The Connecticut Bar Association has a program in March also, but that's basically more zoning, planning and zoning board of appeals and inland wetlands. But it's on inland wetlands, it's more on regulations and court cases. So it's really not too much about conservation. That one is a remote. Oh, it's remote on a Saturday. And it's from like, I think it starts around 8:30 and goes to 3:30 or 4 o'clock. There is a book, it's about 2 inches thick, that comes with it.
Okay.
And the cost is $45.
Sounds like a snoozer to me.
Well,
It's
honestly, I think it is appropriate for somebody that's serving on planning and zoning.
But yes, for them it's, but for me it would be like, I don't, whatever. It's important, but it's not my area.
All right.
So
Bert has gone to those.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, Bert.
Well,
Well, you're
he's
on planning and zoning, aren't
I
you?
give up on a lot of those because they do case studies and things like that. And after about 3 or 4 years, you get kind of bored with case studies. They don't really get down to the nitty gritty unless somebody in the audience asks a question, a technical question, and then you may or may not get a response. I've
Okay.
sort of gotten cold on some of these meetings they have. People get together, no cocktails being
No
served.
cocktails.
No cocktails being served,
Savages.
But anyway, I don't think I've been to one of those. I think it's been 3 years now since I've did the go around on those all day meetings.
Okay. So it sounds like nobody is, running to the door to go
No.
in to see this.
No, not this time.
Okay, so we can pass on member educational opportunities, non-sustainable CT. Membership, I did reach out to Chris Anaskevich as I promised. I was incredibly impressed. He got back to me within the day
Wow.
and said he would send out an email to his members, and I haven't heard things since. But I will go back to him again and just sort of see where that sits and if anybody has an interest. My guess is he forgot about it. I can't believe nobody would want to join. I mean, group like this.
I'm pretty sure he probably did send it out and didn't get a lot of response, but who knows?
All right. Well, I'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay. Library, the public use, I have not actually checked out the infrared camera yet. I will do so. My wife is leaving for 2.5 weeks, and I will do so while she's away. So I'll have plenty of time. I'll be looking for things to do. So I will check out the infrared camera. I'll take some pictures, and then we can use that as a way to promote that so that people will also check out the infrared camera. And of course, anybody else that would like to check that out and take pictures of their house, they are more than welcome to.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I would, but I don't know if I should. But
We had that done. We had that done a while ago. It was very valuable exercise, and we did all of the things that they suggested.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the nice thing is this is kind of a do-it-yourself kind of thing, which is great. And so I'm going to do that, and then we can sort of publicize that.
Actually, yeah, I mean, we probably should do, I know that my front door is leaking, but everywhere else, I mean, it should be pretty good. I'd be interested to see. At least they'll give you suggestions on what you can do, right? So
Right.
that's good.
Well, when I check it out, you can have me over to your place and I'll take pictures. That
Ah,
sounds wrong. That sounds really wrong. But yeah, no.
You just better not come to my kitchen, because if you hang around the sink, it's like freezing there, absolutely freezing. I
Well,
can put water down in the sink and it'll be frozen the next morning.
You gotta fix that.
Huh?
You gotta fix that. All right.
Well, that's just one.
Does anybody have anything they want to add to the next meeting agenda? I think we've got a pretty full agenda for next meeting, but especially with the dark skies deep dive. But does anybody have anything else they would like to add to it? Okay.
Okay.
Sherry, any other correspondence?
No, there's none, but I don't know if anybody has noticed that I have stopped sending you interdepartment agendas and minutes.
yeah, why?
Because they're available on the website. And I think what was happening was so much stuff was going to you that it was getting confusing as to what you really needed to focus on. So you can sign up on the website. Just go to Clinton CT. You can sign up to get notifications of when agendas and minutes are posted. And you can
I usually just go to the website. I usually just go to the website and go and scroll down and find who I'm looking for and check out their minutes and agendas.
Yeah, I actually stopped sending them to you about a month and a half ago, and nobody has said why or. So
I mean, honestly, Sherry, I thought you were on vacation.
I just assumed it was a new policy or something, but it's fine. The information's there for us whenever we need it.
Yep.
It's information. Okay. And it's good because that way you can see, like, if something comes up at planning and zoning, usually I'll hear it in the office. Now we have Abby, and I think Abby is going to change a little process that way, possibly. Abby, remember we talked? No.
We'll connect that.
She fell asleep.
About applications. Applications coming directly to on referrals and referrals. So anyway,
we'll talk. We'll talk.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll talk.
So in other words, if something comes in that you guys think may be of interest to us, you would pass it along. Is that what you're saying?
When there's a requirement, when there's open space consideration, when there's particular things that you would normally make a referral through the regulations and you're designated to do, then yes.
Okay.
How would we know when something comes up, if it like falls within the town plan of conservation and development, but it's not really being acknowledged in the application, that kind of stuff,
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can talk about what you want to see and what is just sort of following along the agendas of various groups. I mean, one could make an argument that just about anything falls under the POCDP. So if you sort of say, listen, if anything related to whether, and you can sort of set some categories and say, look, we're asking to be considered for comment on the following, and there's certainly regulatory pieces. If a subdivision comes up and it's got open space involved, then yes, you're gonna get a formal referral. But if it's somebody looking for a zone change in a business district, you may not, and that that kind of stuff.
We would just want to know. It would just be one of those things where, somebody's putting in something over here, and we might say, okay, well, we might want to look at how we can connect, how we can make it connect open space, or if we can have an easement through it, things like that. That's the only thing, the only things we would want to be concerned with.
And if there's, I mean, if there's changes to site planning requirements, landscaping,
Exactly.
material lists, those kinds of things.
Good.
Right, so it's sort of it's a little bit of a staff judgment piece right now, but that's the kind of things that would come over.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be sort of anything under the sun, but just kind of things that maybe are within your purview.
Perfect.
All right, cool. So we are now at adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn for the
I'll
meeting?
make a move to adjourn this meeting.
All right, Bert, way to go.
I'll second that.
MJ seconded.
Now I can go down and have my ice cream.
Can I have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, it carries. I was a little worried there.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Abby.
Here.
Thanks,
Thank
Abby.
you.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thank you, everybody.
You guys are the best. Bye-bye.